Okay, Mr. Yonke, if you'd like to start the meeting, that would be great.
Great. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is it's the Municipal Solid Waste Management Resource Recovery Advisory Council meeting for Thursday, January 13th. We have Diane and Chance have sent out a number of attachments you should have received for the meeting, so you should have those. And I think what we'll do is go into roll call, Diane, and my thought is if you were doing the roll call to make sure we have a quorum, what have you, and then once you do that, everyone on the board can introduce themselves and who they represent at that point. If that makes sense.
Okay. All right. So we'll do roll call first then, and then we'll do the other. Okay. All right. Trent Perez.
I'm here. Great seeing you.
Yes, it is good to see you too.
Trent Perez with the City of Pearland, representing cities over 100,000 in population.
Okay, thank you. Scott Trebus.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Trebus. I'm a representative of a solid waste management organization specializing in commercial operations.
Okay. Risa Weinberger.
Hi, I'm Risa Weinberger. I'm with Risa Weinberger and Associates, and I am representing both composters and educators, environmental educators.
David Yonke.
Dave Yonke, president of New Gen Strategy Solutions, and I'm representing the financial community.
Thank you. Tanel Atkins.
Tanel Atkins, representing the city of Dallas, population over 1.3 million.
Richard Abramowitz.
I saw him sign in. Richard, you might be on mute.
Yes, I'm making him a presenter. 1 sec.
Okay.
You should be able to speak now, Richard. Thank you.
Yep. All right. I'm here, Richard Abramowitz, self-employed consultant representing the general public.
Thank you. Cheryl Murgo.
Cheryl Murgo with the Houston-Galveston Area Council, representing a planning region.
Chuck Rivette.
Good morning. I'm Chuck Rivette. I work for Waste Management. I represent a solid waste professional with experience managing and operating a commercial solid waste landfill.
Jeffrey Mayfield.
Good morning, Jeff Mayfield, North Texas Municipal Water District, and I represent a public solid waste district or authority.
Richard McHale.
Good morning, Richard McHale. I'm with the City of Austin, and I am an official from a city or county solid waste agency.
Scott Pasternak.
Hey, you're on mute, Scott.
Hey, thanks. Hey, good morning, everybody. Scott Pasternak, and I lead the solid waste and recycling consulting practice here in Texas for Burns and McDonnell. And on the advisory council, I represent the general public.
Steve Shannon. Is Mr. Shannon here?
Or are you on mute?
Trying to see.
They're not on the attendees list unless they're under a different name.
Okay. David Dillard. Frank Pugsley.
Good morning, Frank Pugsley, and I lead the solid waste engineering practice for Park Hill, and I represent or am a professional engineer with a private consulting firm with experience in the design and management of solid waste facilities.
Okay. And Jennifer Lutz. Is Jennifer here? I'm looking through the list. I do not see her at this time. Dave, as far as we know, Mr. Yonke, as far as we know, Steve will be here later, right? You're expecting him?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, he may join later. Okay, roll has been called.
All right. How did you want to do introductions for the audience?
Oh, I believe we've been introducing just as far as our TCQ staff that are part of our agenda today.
Okay. Well, if you want to do those, and then we'll get into the agenda.
Okay. All right. I'm Diane Barnes with the TCQ MSW permit section. Chance?
Chance Gooden, section manager for the Municipal Solid Waste Permitting Program.
Charlie?
Charlie Fritz, Deputy Director of the Waste Permits Division.
Megan?
Good morning, Megan Henson, Section Manager for Business and Program Services Section.
Garrett?
Garrett Heathman, Technical Specialist for the Waste Permits Division.
Shannon Watson, are you here yet?
I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning, Shannon Watson with the Occupational Licensing Section.
Okay. I think that's Savannah Rains.
Yes, I'm a project manager with the Municipal Solid Waste Permits Division.
Okay. I think that's our main staff for our meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Yonke.
Great. Thank you, Diane. So we'll just get into it. I will mention you have the agenda, members, you have the agenda. There is an item that we're going to discuss at the end in the 11:30 to 11:45 slot with regard to something that Steve Shannon will present tied to the recycling markets and legislation, sunset, etc. So you should have received some of that information in the last couple days from Diane. And so we'll discuss that at the end. But otherwise, Charlie, we'll just jump into it. You're up first, and we'll have the presentation from the Waste Permits Division.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Again, I'm Charlie Fritz, Deputy Director of the Waste Permits Division. I just have a couple updates today. It's made it through the holiday season. We're dealing with COVID like everybody else, but so we're still working from home. Don't have much of an update on returning to the office and all that because we're dealing with it like everybody else. So when we get more information, we'll definitely pass it along, but just still holding steady of optional come into the office and still not holding external meetings with external parties right now. So we like virtual. Virtual's working definitely. It's easier to schedule, but just if something comes up, definitely reach out, talk to us because we can figure something out to work with y'all. On to actual topics I was assigned. So the alternative language, Megan gave a presentation last MSWRRAC. We're continuing to work on that. We are gathering the forms that need to be translated and continuing to figure out how we're going to ask for that plain language summary. So that's going to be that plain language summary that's included with the application of just giving a kind of less than 2-page. I think that's in rule of it has to be less than 2-page and just easy text of what's going on in the application, what's going on at the facility. So we're figuring out how to direct the applicants to provide the necessary information where it doesn't get too technically engineer words. So keep everybody on focus. So we're working on that, and we're working on translating documents. All of that will be rolled out starting May 1st. So we know it's coming up. We know it's going to fly by. So we'll get some. You'll start seeing probably revisions to either notice documents when we send them out as part of the notice process, and you will be seeing changes to application forms as well. We'll work on the timing. I don't know if that's going to start if we'll make those revisions to the forms before May 1st or on May 1st. We'll probably make it before, since starting May 1st, you have to submit those. So we'll start making those changes to applications. But definitely, I mean, we'll provide some outreach. We'll be answering questions, and we'll work with y'all, since this is a new procedure. So we're at a point where we know where we're going. We're not quite there yet, but we see a light at the end of the tunnel. But we still know we have some work to do. So definitely be on the lookout. We'll keep you all updated through here, through MSWRRAC, and through our Gov delivery as well.
Okay.
And any questions on that? I'll jump into sunset and then see if there's any questions for me. For the sunset review, we're continuing to go through sunset. We've done some sunset. The sunset committee has gone to visit sites in Austin and Houston, taking a break for a little bit. COVID, like everything else, has impacted some of those site visits. So may still go down to South Texas, may still go up to Dallas, but right now they're taking a little bit of break and focusing on meetings with our staff, going through various processes, getting details from staff on how the agency works. So, and I think they're continuing to receive comments from stakeholders, from industry groups. So they're definitely reaching out to people outside the agency as well. That information, how to contact them, upcoming dates, is available on the Sunset Commission's website as well. So that's still going on. We wrap everything up in around April to May, I believe. So we're still working on that. And definitely they're still looking for comments as well. So any questions for me?
Charlie, what's as far as, and I can't remember how it was done last time, but what kind of report is available publicly or to the MSWRRAC members, or is anything available to us?
Regarding
is completed.
Regarding sunset once it's complete?
Yes.
There is a final report that comes out from the Sunset Committee. That's kind of where they'll go quiet towards the end. So April, May, we work on a report with them of kind of the final findings, their findings. And that's what comes out as a report of how the agency's doing, duplication, and their recommendations. If there's items, tasks they see duplicated within the agency, with other agencies, they make comments on our major issues. So there's a final report that summarizes everything and has their recommendations as well.
Well, that's supposed to come out in May of 2022, I believe. It's one of the schedule shows the report from committee.
That's good. Thank you. If you could just make a note, and I know this potentially, I don't know how voluminous it is, and if there's lots of appendices, don't necessarily need those, but especially if we could get what's related to the solid waste side, that would be beneficial. And other members, I don't know if you have questions, comments for Charlie.
Yeah, we
hey,
can
Charlie,
definitely.
You want to point them to the website?
The Sunset Commission. Yeah, I can do that.
Well,
I'll grab that.
Our website has information.
Yeah, that too. Okay, I'll point it to. Yeah, I'll list both of those. And we can definitely, once we see the final version of the report, they'll post the report on our website and on the Sunset Committee website. It will probably be after our April meeting, so we could talk about it during the summer, and we'll definitely send it out to y'all before that, once we see a final version.
Okay, great.
This is Rich. Charlie, I see, Rich Abramowitz, I see that there's a TCEQ self-evaluation report was published back in September. I assume that there's solid waste issues in there. And it's not really a question, just well, maybe it is a question, I guess. To what extent is the solid waste issues addressed in that self-evaluation report?
Right. The self-evaluation report is the kickoff for the sunset review. So the process starts out where the agency creates this self-evaluation report, and it's 600 pages long. We're a large agency, so one part of that is waste issues, and there's a chapter we're combined into the Office of Waste. So we explain what the Waste Permits Division does. So MSW program and the Industrial and Hazardous Waste program both have explanation. There are, to your question, Richard, there are a couple of major issues pointed out directly related to municipal solid waste, and that's a major issue related to Fund 549 and the declining fund balance in Fund 549. So we specifically pointed that out. And then we also had a second major issue related to illegal dumping, that it's a statewide issue with with pretty much insufficient funds and not a clear way to tackle that problem statewide. So those were the two major issues listed in related to municipal waste in the self-evaluation report.
Okay, being new to the commission, can you tell me what the Fund 549 is?
Sure. So Fund 549 is the one that funds all the waste programs within the agency. So Garrett will get into a little bit of this, but I don't think at this broad of a level. So Fund 549, the major revenue sources for Fund 549 is the MSW tipping fee from all the municipal landfills. And then there's some industrial and hazardous waste fees collected as well that go into there. So that's our revenue sources for Fund 549. That fund pays for all the municipal and hazardous waste permitting programs and enforcement within the agency. So permitting, OCE, waste investigators, legal help, administrative cost associated with running these programs. So that's what Fund 549 pays.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions there for Charlie?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Yonke, this is Steve Shannon. I'm sorry I got to the meeting late. I was having some technical difficulties, but I wanted to let you know that I was present.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Yes, and Ms. Lutz is also here, I noticed.
So let's go to the next on the agenda was the hazardous class 1 industrial waste. And I believe we have Garrett here to give us an update on that.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Garrett, and I was the project manager on this rulemaking. So in November of last year, 2021, revisions were made to the IHW generator and hazardous and generator and management fee schedules. The revisions were needed, as we kind of put out there in the SER as well, to increase revenue for the waste management account, Fund 549 specifically. And these fee schedules had not been revised since the 90s. So that's kind of where this rulemaking kind of came from. So for this, we revised the schedules, and the revisions were kind of created based on evaluations of revenue needs and also where revenue collections, were relative to the caps and limits that are in the Texas Health and Safety Code. For that, for reference, is $16 million for the IHW management fee across the entire state. So the agency is able to collect up to $16 million in revenue per year from all facilities that pay into that fee. And then for generators, it's actually a per facility cap of $10,000 for non-hazardous waste generation and $50,000 for hazardous waste generation. So in order for us to create these schedules that are now in the new adopted rule from November, we kind of looked at a lot of those factors and where we were relative to caps for generators, where we were relative to the $16 million cap for IHW management fee across the state. And so from there, that's kind of how we ended up with the schedules that we have. And then a further evaluation was done based on projected revenue and the funding. And so from there, we also implemented a phased approach. The phased approach is not spelled out in rule. The schedules in rule are just the maximum schedules, which we increased those to where we felt that we could potentially get somewhere that a little bit more comfortable in revenue collections and funding from this program. And so in rule, you might find that we added a language there where the commission agency, is able to on an annual basis analyze and see where those collections were and allow us to adjust the fees at or below those maximum schedules that are in rule. So what that actually allows us to do is to do this phased approach and not have to go through rulemaking every single year, because we know that that's not the easiest thing. So what we can do now is adjust those fees and phase in this increase for now. And then once we get to those maximums, evaluate if we're collecting based on waste volumes, we may end up above or project being above 16 million, for example, and be able to adjust those things on an annual basis. Everybody's probably wondering, the rule was effective in November. We did not make the fees effective starting November. We actually, for generator fees, those became effective starting January 1st, and they pay on an annual basis. So they started any waste generated starting in January 1st of 2022 is paying the new fee. And the phased-in approach is kind of four equal increments. So the fees are going up just kind of 4 times over 4 years. That's the anticipation. Of course, we'll be analyzing that on an annual basis. For management fee, this is for MSW landfills, for example. I know that's what generally is here, like MSW. It's going to be either class 1 wastes, and your class like landfills managing class 1 waste. So for those, that fee is effective. The increase is effective starting March 1st. So that would not be calculated and reported and paid until the April report, which is due April 25th. And we are planning on sending out information, sending out notice, like a document, essentially kind of informing people of what what it is, when it's effective, and also the actual schedule that would be expected or anticipated in the upcoming forms, because we will make updates to forms so that whenever the fees are paid, that things are calculated correctly. But the fee schedule and rule is the maximum that we can go to. But for these interim years, or if we may never necessarily get to that maximum, the fee report, fee forms would be kind of where that information is, and also online. We have our schedule that we're anticipating that would be the schedule for the fees for the current year or the current period. And further, for any changes that we do make, this goes for both the the waste permits program, and then also our Office of Licensing and Reporting, the do generators. All of that we will be sending out notice. And our aim for this in the future is always to try to get 90 days notice prior to changing fees, and then also only to change fees effective starting in a fiscal year starting September 1st. So that's our anticipation for future changes to fees, whether that's up, down, any kind of adjustments to fees. That would be kind of where we would try to make that fall into our schedule and for everybody else's schedules as well. So that's all I have. If anybody has questions.
I'll start off, Garrett, and thanks for the presentation. Hey, let me just ask you a question. You said all these fees, it's been basically 20 years or so. Is it for all the fees or the majority?
So that's for, when I mentioned that, this is specific to the IHW management and generation fees. Those are the fees that when we were looking into this, the last time that they were changed from a fee schedule perspective was 1994.
Gotcha, great. And let me ask you, is there some general cost analysis? Since I have a financial background and I represent the financial community, I can finally talk about stuff that's not related and stuff. Is there some general at a high level cost analysis put together so you can, explain why you need those increases? And I don't
as
want
far,
to see
I mean, I do have one thing I would like to say on that. The fee schedules that we have right now in place, we did not do, we didn't tweak them in a sense of changing the way that they were laid out. We kept the current fee schedules in place and just did kind of like we evaluated and increased by a set amount across all fee type, like waste management types, etc. Because that fee schedule, from what we were able to determine, is that that was prepared many years ago, and there was a lot of thought and a lot of things that went into how much is appropriate for landfills, how much is appropriate for underground injection and processing and energy recovery, all those different fields. And so we didn't want to mess with that integrity during this rulemaking. So during this rulemaking, as far as for the schedules, we just did kind of like a routine across the board increase for all types of management methods. And so from that side of things, we did do that. And then as far as from the revenue, Charlie, would you like to say anything else on that? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I can jump in. So we're actually covering that, well, I guess once. A new part of the sunset review is actually the fiscal accounting. So that's right up your alley, Dave. Our revenue and our financial departments, our budget department, have to work with the sunset committee and basically do, I guess, like a zero balance, show where all the costs are. So that will be part of the sunset documentation as well. And from that, we are actually going to hold some stakeholder meetings regarding these fees to see how, based on those costs, what kind of revenue and how we can adjust the IHW side. So that is something we didn't do it for this rulemaking. Like Garrett said, we knew we needed some revenue, so we just did a percentage increase for all of them. But that is something we are aware of and are currently doing. So that information will be available soon. It'll definitely be part of the sunset report. And it's something we will be seeking stakeholder input for looking at these fees again in the future.
Okay. No, that's great. Thanks. And I would mention, I like that. Again, I don't know if it's for all the fees or some of the fees, but doing the phased approach for some of those over 4 years. We do that for clients. Oftentimes that's a good approach. And, honestly, on some of those fees, if they're going up, I've never met anybody that likes a rate increase or a fee increase. But when you explain that some of these things haven't been, raised in 20 plus years or 5 years, it's a little easier to justify that, again, with inflation and what have you. But okay, no, I appreciate that update. Any questions from any of the other members? I think Scott's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I think Dave, you and I were probably had our minds kind of spinning in a similar fashion from the financial perspective. And so my question is for either Garrett or Charlie. And part of the answer to my question, Charlie, may just be part of what you just referred to, but I'm just trying to get a better understanding of, as far as the total revenue that's being generated, both on the MSW and then the HW side, how that breaks out between like what Garrett was describing, as well as the revenue that's generated from the landfill tipping fees. I think that would be helpful just for everybody on the council, just to kind of understand what's the order of magnitude of the dollars on those different fronts.
Yeah, so as far as specific dollar amounts and the balances and things like that, how that works, with this fee, the increases that we did, we were falling within the statute limits and bounds, and our further stakeholder meeting process or stakeholder process to come. That's where we're going to kind of get more in depth into discussing kind of making the things balanced based on the evaluation of the work that with the division, like how our where our resources fall and where our funding falls, and have a better evaluation there. But just kind of like as Charlie said, during this rulemaking, it was just there's a need for revenue increase, and so kind of just looking at what can we do currently with respect to our statutes and things like that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But the stakeholder process will definitely be shed more light on that subject.
But in terms, Garrett, of like what's the current total annual revenue that's generated, and then what might it increase to over the next 4 years? And then how does that compare to the total revenue that's presently generated through the MSW tipping fees?
Sure. For the IHW management fee specifically, that's the one that we deal with that with our IHW landfills. Yearly, the collections are anywhere between 11 and 12 million. That's the revenue. There is also in statute for any commercial waste, 25% of that fee goes to the counties. And so the revenue, whenever we kind of focus on the word revenue, because our collection is limited to the actual revenue that TCEQ receives and holds on to after that 25% reduction to the counties. But and then for the generation as well, that one we were projecting somewhere around 4 million annually, and then so somewhere close to 16 combined for both of them. And then Charlie, do you know the MSW numbers?
The MSW does collect more. I'm going to use round numbers that have been published before. Typically, we collect around 31 to 34 million in revenue for the MSW tipping fee, but realize not all that goes to Fund 549. There is that switch, but there's the distribution between Fund 549 and Fund 5000. So again, just kind of round numbers. Revenue to Fund 549 is around 23-ish million. So please add plus and minuses to that. And those are probably numbers from our amounts from, so we do a cost and out, well, we do a budget at the start of every fiscal year. I have not seen what it was for FY22 yet. So these numbers are old that I'm telling you right now. So definitely be on the lookout for the fiscal review from the sunset report, because I think that's up your alleys of explaining the cost that the agency has, and then also I think it goes into revenue as well, because we have to balance the revenue versus the cost. So that's why I'm using big numbers right now, and I'm saying don't hold me to that, because there will be very in-depth numbers coming out within the next couple of months.
Yeah, that both of y'all's answer was perfect. That was what I was looking for, was just to try to understand those kind of rough order of magnitude. So thank you.
Charlie, would you repeat a number for me? You said 31 to 34 million for MSW tip fees for both 549 and Fund 5000. What was the just 549 number?
About 23.
Thank you.
In that somewhere range. And it varies year to year. It goes up and down based on, as you all know, waste disposal amounts.
Chuck, you had a question there.
Yeah, Garrett, implementation question. We've had some confusion on when it goes into effect and when it's not, and I know there's a lot of information out there. I remember in early November waking up to a panic and getting an email saying that it went into effect a week ago, and I was like, what? So, in particularly for the Class 1 disposal fees, the fees that the landfills collect and transfer to the agency via the steers, those go into effect March 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is the magnitude in the table, is that final as to what that increase is? You talked about stakeholder meetings, and
yeah, if we are trying to get like kind of like a notice, if you will, sent out. It's going to be like a letter to all facilities that we have that have record of paying fees and that we have active and etc. And so we're trying to send that out to give them a document that shows exactly what those fees are going to be. The fee in rule is not we're not going full to that magnitude.
Right.
The actual increase that we are implementing with this first phase is 12%. And so if you were to
Okay, so
go across.
Let me hold on to that because I think it's what, $6 a ton right now. So the increase is 72 cents a ton. Am I getting that right?
But close. We do have it on our IHW website. We actually do have the table that we will be sending out via email and a letter if we have that information for the billing contact information. So that's also something we've been working on, is trying to get our make sure that our billing contacts in our system, which is something that we really just have to work with the facilities on to make sure that's updated as best as possible, so we can actually give this information out as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible to as many people as possible. But yeah, so the table is there, and it should be somewhere that sounds roughly.
Okay, can I ask you a favor? Is it possible via Diane? Could you? I was on the site just a week ago, and I got lost, I guess.
I'll post a link.
Can you post a link?
Hey, Chuck.
And the urgency on this is it goes into effect March 1, but by courtesy and in some parts by contract, we need to notify our customers 30 days in advance of an increase. So I've got you've got a March 1 implementation date, but I've got a February 1 contract date that I got to meet. So I've literally got, just 2 weeks to make this happen and get notices out. So whatever you can do to help us is greatly appreciated.
Hey, Chuck, this is Chance. I don't know if you can hear me, but
yeah,
I think you subscribed to the listserv, but we sent out a newsletter on Monday. MSW sent out a newsletter on Monday that has some of that information in there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It has a chart, and I think it has a link.
I need to go back and find that then. That's my mistake. I missed that newsletter on Monday. Perfect. Okay, thank you, Ken. Thank you for all the work. I know it's confusing.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, and Megan Henson did post the link to the IHW webpage. The link is there, and we'll definitely do better to make sure we get notice to all MSW and IHW as well in the future.
No, I know you've been on a speed train, and no criticisms there. Just we'll work with you, and you work with us, and we'll all be good.
Okay. Hey, Jeff has a question. Jeff Mayfield.
Thank you. Hey, Charlie, I know you're just giving ballpark numbers. For the MSW collection, the range that you gave, roughly 31 to 34 million, is that simply the 94 cent a ton, or is that net after the compost rebates, whether it's 15 or 20% are issued?
That's net after the rebates.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Any other questions for Garrett here? All right. Garrett, thank you very much. Thanks for answering the questions. Appreciate it. Good luck with the implementation. And let's see if there aren't any other questions. Chance, looks like you're up to give an update on the MSW permit section.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Chance Gooden, again, manager of the Municipal Solid Waste Permitting section. Before I get into updates on our rural projects, thought I'd give you some things about staffing and projects. So I believe Diane shared with you our organizational chart as an attachment. As you can see from the organizational chart, we have 2 vacancies, one on team 1, an engineer position on team 1, and a project manager position on team 2. We are currently in the process of getting those both filled. One's closer than the other, but we're looking forward to filling those positions soon. I also, and some of you may know this, I'm sure Cheryl Murgo knows this, but recently Cheryl Ultimer retired in December. She kind of slipped out through the holidays, and I know many of you probably know her. She's been with the state since she was 15 years old, like 42 years here. So I wanted to just let y'all know that she's left the building, but she's very much missed by all of us. But I think, just so you're aware, Jessica Uramkin, I believe, is taking her spot. So if you haven't, jot that name down. So you can, I know that Cheryl dealt with Cheryl a lot because of the COG stuff.
Spell that last name. I'm sorry, Jessica's last name.
Oh, it's Uramkin, Uramkin.
Thank you.
So she's been with the agency for quite some time. Very nice young lady. And regards to projects, since we last met, we moved up a little bit. We have 23 major projects that are occurring right now, and 8 of those are registrations. And we're working on many reports, modifications, notice of intents. We're in the height of our groundwater reporting right now, so we have an influx of those reports coming in for statistical analysis. So busy working through those. So, regarding our rulemaking projects, I just wanted to touch on each one of those, kind of give you an update where we are. In regards to the Chapter 328, the recycling chapter, about a year ago this time, Charlie was discussing with you guys our interest in reviewing those rules. You know, we wanted to look at some requirements about the safety and compliance at recycling facilities. It kind of was spawned from a fire that we had at a recycling facility down in the Houston area. So we sought y'all's input on a possible stakeholder group, and which y'all provided that list, so thank you for that. So as an update from now, we have been internally meeting to prepare that formal stakeholder group, and we're gathering data. OCE is in the process of gathering some data for us to better understand what we want to ask of stakeholders. So I think it's important when we do meet that, you know, the stakeholders have an idea of what we're looking for. So and we need that, you know, for a meaningful meeting. So be thinking ahead as you're a stakeholder about, you know, the validity of our authorizations / exemptions for these sites and the requirements that surround that. Any ideas on proper long-term care of the sites for storage, stuff like that, and, you know, ideas on handling this material. So that's where we are, and hope to have a meeting soon with that group. In Chapter 330, the landfill chapter, we are still in concept phase. Nothing has been approved to date, but you know, some things that I think I can highlight that may be of interest to you. I mean, we have several little things that we want to clean up, but things that may be of interest to you. We're thinking about allowing for electronic submittal. The hard copy thing is becoming a time of the sign of the times, and so we want to update the rules to at least allow that electronic submittal aspect, and then also expanding our online capabilities of applications for other sites that are currently not required to post applications online. And then lastly, our Chapter 332 rule, composting rule. I've been keeping y'all up to speed on that. I'm happy to announce that the rule has been adopted as of yesterday. The commissioners approved that rule. So that rule will be effective on February 3rd. So before I move on to the recycling call-in for TVs, do you have any questions about rulemaking? Or I can just finish up and then y'all can ask questions if there is any. Our 2021 TV Recycler Annual Report is upon us. Reports are going to be due January 31st. Call-in emails were sent out mid-December on the 22nd. So we currently have only 6 registered recyclers. That data will be received by David Greer's group and will be added to the program report for Texas recyclers in computers and televisions. And that's going to be due to the legislature on March 1st. That's all the updates that I have for MSW. Anybody have any questions for me? I'd be happy to answer them if I can.
Hey, Scott, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and thanks for that report as well, Chance. I just wanted to mention one thing and then had a follow-up question as well. And just wanted to thank you, Chance, for recognizing Cheryl Ultimer. I know that a lot of folks at this meeting have known her very well for a long time, myself included, when I was just a young pup starting off as a solid waste planner at the agency. Geez, now 25 plus years ago. Cheryl was always that person who I went to whenever I had, one of my silly or dumb questions of, help me understand this or what have you. And since I've moved to the consulting world, she's continued to be that type of a resource. I mean, you'll never meet a nicer, better person than Cheryl Ultimer. So appreciate what you were saying there, Chance. And then my question is, with that stakeholder group that you were referring to, that's going to be to specifically talk about some of the issues related to some of the fires that have been occurring. Is that accurate?
We can talk about that. Yes. Okay. It's really about, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, with our work with several of the recycling facilities around the state, we are starting to see more active efforts in installation of fire suppression systems, like with one of the companies is Fire Rover. So just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of that going into that process, to where these are MRFs that have recognized, that potential for fire is a very real risk, and have put in those systems that are actively scanning the facilities for sources of heat, and if that occurs, can blast those areas with very, very intense, strong foam to suppress any potential for fires.
Do you know if these are exempt facilities that are doing this, or
well,
are registered?
I know the city of Dallas, FCC MRF, just recently installed this type of system. And then also Waste Connections has its MRF up in the McKinney area, and they just put one in as well. I'm sure there are others, but those are 2 that I've just recently seen by being at those facilities.
Okay.
Chance, I've got a question on the same subject, the 328 safety and fire issues. As you know, some of the composting facilities are recycling facilities, and some of the composting facilities are other processing MSW facilities. Is there any overlap when you're looking at the 328 rules? Is there any overlap looking at safety and fire issues that would apply to composting facilities?
At this, we would address that in Chapter 332. This is more my thought was we were trying to address some of the lower hanging fruit that may need some attention in regards to, are the requirements adequate for these smaller recyclers that kind of go under the radar, specifically, the way they're handling that material. Is there any improvements that we can look at for that? And don't really want to get into the reporting, because reporting is more paperwork, but if we need to look at the reporting aspect of that would, those are the things that we would want to discuss with our stakeholders. So
I certainly understand that it's 2 different issues, but I'll just throw out there that there is also, in my mind, a significant concern about fires at composting facilities and how those are addressed.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
Any other questions there? Okay. Chance, thank you for your report. And, like Scott said, I started in like 92, so 30 years ago. And, Cheryl and Linda Haney were taking my questions. And so if you see her or Charlie or either of you guys, just, tell Cheryl, yeah, kind of that stone in the pond, the ripple effect. She may be gone, but the ripple effect is there and people have benefited. So thank you.
She quietly slipped out. I got onto her. I said, "Look at you. You're gonna slip out of here when everybody's on holiday break, just quiet as a mouse." I said, "How dare you?" I always joked with her because it's like, do you age? When did you start with this agency? You don't look like a day over 40. So she looks so young.
Well, that's great. She's done a lot of good work. So, all right. Well, thank you. Third, any other questions? We're pretty much on track, and we're going to go to regional solid waste management plan update. So, perfect segue there after talking about Cheryl. So, Megan, I believe you're on.
Thank you. Yeah, Cheryl imparted lots of wisdom before she left on December 31st. So she also got to review some plans with Jessica and Anju and Brenda, who are other team members. So she sent us off in the right direction, that's for sure. So Waste Permits currently has 17 plans in-house that we're reviewing, and 7 plans are pending submittal. And we communicate with the COGS regularly and don't expect any significant delays in receiving those last 7 plans. The COGS have done a great job on these plans, and deficiencies have really been minimal. More clarity, conversation-based things than any, stop what you're doing, you're on the wrong track. So happy to see the great quality that the COGS have put into these plans. And just as a reminder, as the process for these plans to go through a full approval, Volume 1 has to be approved by the TCEQ commissioners, and the first batch of plans is expected to be presented at the commissioners' agenda in early spring, and we'll continue to present 4 to 6 plans at a time until all the plans are approved by the commissioners. And Volume 2 is approved by the Executive Director, and we expect a short turnaround time from commissioners' approval to ED approval. And we don't anticipate any delays having both volumes approved for all 24 COGS well before the end of 2022.
Okay. Great. So I know, well, anything else?
Not on the plans,
no. So, we have talked with a couple folks that, at COGS that have been involved with those, and I was involved in just one of them, but I know you were trying to spread them out so they're not all coming in one big dump. So with those 17 in-house, they're all at various phases, and you've got sufficient staff to go through these?
We do, yes, and we appreciate the COGS being willing to work with us. And actually, I think with the holidays and just how the different board meetings landed, they pretty much have been spaced where it's 1 or 2 a week since early December. Some submitted beforehand. The guinea pig that was going through the first plan has taken a little bit longer, but it's actually helped us get on track with the rest of the plans. So, yeah, we're able to stay on schedule. We're aiming to have where they're technically approved, but still have to go through, of course, the commission and ED approval. Roughly 65, 70 days. And so far we've been able to stick close to those dates, to those timeframes. Of course, there's back and forth with internally with the different reviewers, but then with the COGS, and if they worked with any consultants, reaching out to the consultants and talking with them as well. But yeah, we're pretty good as far as our timeframes are going.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from any of the members on that before Megan goes to the scrap tire? Okay, go ahead.
Great. So it's time again for the scrap tire annual activity reports, and we're going to be sending out the letters to transporters, scrap tire facilities, and storage sites tomorrow. And the 2021 annual activity reports are due by March 1st. And the report forms are found on the Scrap Tire webpage, along with a helpful frequently asked questions section that has drop downs for each question. In addition to that, TCEQ is actually hosting a webinar on how to complete your Scrap Tire annual activity report. This will be held on February 15th from 11:30 to 12:30. So it's intended for those who are required to submit a report, and attendees are going to learn how to fill out the report forms correctly, how to submit your report, and also just suggestions on how to maintain records for easy reporting to TCEQ. And the registration link is on our Scrap Tire annual report webpage. We're really excited about this webinar because it falls into one of the goals for the 5-year plan for scrap tire management in Texas, which is to increase annual reporting and increase the accuracy of reporting. So spread the word. We did include it in the MSW newsletter. It's posted on our website. TCEQ is going to also do some social media on it as we get closer to the date. So yeah, if you know of any transporters, scrap tire facilities, or storage sites, please encourage them to attend the webinar.
Let me ask you a question on this, and this may be more back in Chance's area. I'm not sure. Scrap tires, going back to the sunset review, two of the things that were mentioned, highlighted, or being discussed were the declining Fund 549 balance and the illegal dumping issues. Are tire, illegal tire dumps part of that illegal dumping, or is it a separate item? I know for years tires have always been an issue, or illegally dumped tires, I should clarify, with some of these sites. Is that still an issue that's being addressed as part of that sunset review? So I know I just threw a twist here.
Yes, it is included in the illegal dumping. Tire sites are included as part of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions from anyone else here for Megan? Okay. Megan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, and we're right on time, MSW landfill operator license exams. And I believe we have Shannon on the line.
Good morning, everybody. I hope y'all are doing well. I appreciate the time that you've allotted for me to come talk to y'all and kind of give you an update on what we're doing with our MSW licenses. Before I get started, I wanted to take a moment to introduce some of our other division folks. First, I'd like just to point out that Haya Zeman, our deputy director, is also here this morning, and wanted to just say a quick hello. Maybe.
I was not enabled to get on camera, so I'm sorry. So hi everybody, I just wanted to meet everybody. I'm basically Charlie's counterpart on the occupational licensing registration division. So we have all the registration MSW, IHW programs here. So I thought that it would be a good opportunity to meet you and say hi. But you are in good hands with Shannon, so I'm going to go back into the background. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to recognize my training work group, who are the staff that will be working on the project I'm going to describe here shortly. Paul Munguia, Ben Sackmar and Samantha Royal. They are 3 of the 4 people who manage our training providers and training and exams and a lot of other things. And then also we have Kenny Smith, who will be joining us in February as my special assistant and program support coordinator. So with that said, I would like to share my screen, if that's okay, just so that you guys have some notes while I give you a quick update on what's going on with us. So 1 second. Y'all should be able to see that.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Awesome. So again, I'm Shannon Watson, and I'm the manager of the Occupational Licensing section at TCEQ. Some of you may recognize me from, many years ago. I don't even count anymore. When I was doing computer equipment recycling and for a brief period television equipment recycling, working for David Greer. So I've moved away from that. So I just wanted to come and kind of give you an update on the MSW licensing program and let you know what's going on with the exam. So first of all, occupational licensing, the section itself tends to be somewhat overlooked or underestimated in many cases by the agency and by people outside the agency. We are a very small section, which is part of why that happens. There's only 19 of us, including me, and we manage over 55,000 licenses. A license is valid for 3 years, and so that means that 10 of my 18 people are processing approximately 20,000 licensing applications a year, which just continues to blow my mind. So we have 10 different licensing programs, including the MSW Operator A and B licenses for operating municipal solid waste landfills, as well as the MSW Provisional License, which is a 2-year license that allows landfill operators to get experience so that they can qualify to be an A or B operator. We also are responsible for reviewing and approving all training courses for all 10 licensing programs. That means we don't develop the training courses, but we do develop the curriculum and provide that to people who are interested in being training providers. And then we also review the qualifications of instructors in order to qualify them for being able to be qualified instructors at TCEQ. And then, but wait, there's more. We're also responsible for establishing and maintaining all of the licensing exams for the 10 licensing programs. That means that periodically we have to go back and review those exams to make sure that they are still valid and are testing the information that we need our licensees to know before we issue their licenses. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to talk to you about exam management. So, as I mentioned briefly, in order to maintain the integrity of our licenses, we periodically have to update the exam content in order to meet industry standards, but also any state rule changes. We also, as some of our exams have been around for years, like 20 plus years, we have been rewriting some questions to improve the format, such as going from true-false questions to 4-choice, multiple-choice questions, removing answers like none of the above or all of the above. And then finally, we, as part of our exam management, we work to develop new questions to maintain a question bank for ideally, eventually, all exams, so that if we find out that some exams are compromised, we'll have a question bank so we can develop a new exam fairly quickly that's not been compromised. So how do we update an exam? And all of this will make sense in just bear with me and I will get to why I'm here today. When we're updating exams, our starting point involves a process called a job task analysis. And this process helps us verify what job tasks are most critical for a licensed industry. We start with the most recent job task list that we have, and then we ask for input from subject matter experts and TCQ program areas. And so I want to give a shout out to Chance's group, who recently went through the MSW job task list of over 400 tasks to help us determine what experience of operators needed to have, what experience operators needed to have in order to complete the task. So that's helped us move forward very quickly. Once we get an updated task list, then we send a survey out to all of the licensees in that particular job task analysis group. So in this case, all landfill operators, asking them to fill out the survey and rank the tasks by how often they perform each task and what the required level of experience is for each task. We get these back, and as an added bonus and to get people to actually do it, we offer them continuing education credits for their license. Once we receive the surveys, then we can prioritize our job task list based on the responses we get from the licensees. This list helps us to know then what content should be included in the training course curriculum and exam content. And so if it's something that that is no longer necessary or is no longer used, then we can make sure that we remove it from the exam and the curriculum. So the ultimate goal of our job task analysis is to establish a knowledge base that's necessary for applicants to qualify for an MSW license. The project that we're doing has multiple steps and possible future uses. I've listed the steps here. This process can take, we like it to take a year or less, but it's been taking up 18 months or more lately just because of other priorities that we have. And so this is kind of where we need your help. So, if you have direct MSW experience, and I'm guessing I'm in a group where that's likely, and you have some available time, we would appreciate your help with reviewing the job task list. Again, a huge thanks to Chance's group. If you are a licensed MSW operator, whether you're working at a landfill or not, when you receive the survey, please complete it and encourage other folks you know to complete it. Then finally, once we do get new questions developed for our exams, we'd like to have a group review with subject matter experts to go through each question and their answers, and to have somebody who actually works in the field tell us, yeah, this is a good question, or yeah, no, nobody ever does this. That question doesn't make any sense. As a final gut check, we did this with our most recent work with the water license groups, and it was amazing. This was before COVID, and so we could meet in person, and it was so helpful to have licensed operators to come in and help us with that. So, and then finally, we have a position for a part-time temporary contractor, ideally starting as soon as possible through the end of August 2022. If available and if we have funding, it could potentially extend beyond the end of this fiscal year. What we need is somebody to help us finalize and analyze the job task analysis survey, help us to review the current exams to say where updates are necessary. Very important, helping us write new and edit old questions, providing references to both the JTA and the training course material curriculum, so where it is in the approved training course books and that sort of thing. And then also to provide regular updates to us and work with our licensing training group to keep the project moving along. We're not looking for a project manager as much as we're looking for a subject matter expert who can provide knowledge and information that we don't have. We are project managers and training people. We are not MSW experts. What is a subject matter expert? This is my definition. Somebody who has a technical degree in science or engineering. Somebody who's got training or experience in TCEQ rules and regulations for MSW, or experience with job task analyses and curriculum development for technical occupational licensing. And we would again prefer someone with one or both MSW licenses. Thank you for your time. I know I went through this very quickly. I'm sure if you have questions, I have plenty of time to answer them. If you're interested in contracting with us or just want more information offline, just reach out to me at the information on this slide. But if you have any questions now, I'm happy to answer them. And we appreciate any guidance or suggestions you might have to help make this project a success. Thanks.
Shannon, thank you.
Yes.
And so what I'm hearing, and I'm going to put it out to there is a real request here for assistance in crafting these tests and reviewing for accuracy, validity, relevancy. Did I capture that, Shannon?
Absolutely. It absolutely does.
Thank you. So what I would put out to our subject matter experts that are on this advisory council or no other folks, this is a place where we can directly influence in a positive manner that, folks get tested on the things that are relevant and matter to our industry. So, I'm going to open it up here to some discussion and ideas on how we can help TCEQ in this area. And Risa, I'll start off with you.
Well, I've just got a clarifying question. It sounds like you're asking for subject matter experts across the board, across MSW. Is that right?
We are looking for, when you say across the board, we're looking for subject matter experts in the MSW industry for landfill operators. So yes, in that sense,
so
yes.
That's what I was getting at. You're just focusing on landfills at this point.
Yes. In order to get the landfill operator license. However, I haven't looked at the exam in a while, so my mind is not fresh on the questions, but in terms of recycling and composting, which I suspect is fairly high on your mind, Risa, is I would imagine that there would need to be some questions about that in our exams.
Okay.
Possibly.
So first, I just want to make sure I understand. First, I heard you say landfill, and then I heard you say recycling and composting and other MSW. So you're
okay.
including the whole spectrum. Is that right?
Today, let's stick with landfills. Let's stick with landfills because I apologize for my confusion. The landfills are what the license is for, and so that's what we need to focus on at this point.
Well, I do have a small concern when you say that the landfill is what the licenses are for, because there are other facilities, processing facilities, that require licensed operators, like MSW licensed operators, that are not landfills. So, and it's kind of a pet subject of mine, has been for a long time, that I know there are issues related to how your enabling legislation is written, but I understand that, okay, and that needs to be tinkered with, in my opinion. But there are some real adjustments that I think need to be made, and other people in the composting industry, at least, think need to be made, because I've talked to a lot of them, in the training and the exams that pertain to processors, because composters in particular are barely touched on, and there is a body of knowledge that they really need to know, that in the system as it's set up right now, and I understand your constraints, okay, but the system as it's set up right now really don't address well. So I'll just get that off my chest. I'm a little concerned when you say that those licenses are for landfill operators, because there are a lot of other people that have to have those licenses too.
Can I jump in, Shannon, for a second?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So Risa, basically the way Shannon was explaining this process, so while we are looking for, of course, operators of landfills, and that's what the license is for, when we go through the JTA, which is the job task analysis process, and we go through the survey questions, one of the several questions is going to be exactly which duties. If these operators are doing recycling or they are doing duties beyond the straightforward operation of the landfills, that'll be revealed in the survey. And then the subject matter, the people receiving the survey, which are the licensed operators, are going to be ranking these tasks based on priority, like Shannon was describing, and based on criticality. And then when we compile the survey results along with the subject matter expert that we're going to be contracting, we're going to be assigning some kind of a ranking sequence into all these different tasks. And if it's very obvious that that's a knowledge base that these operators need to have, then questions will be included in the exam as a result of this process. And that's the whole purpose of this process, because the industry changes, right? So then as the industry changes, then more or less knowledge is needed in different tasks. So that would be part of the process. Does that make sense?
So if I hear you correctly, you will capture the other processors, composting and recycling and whatever, only to the extent that they are active on landfills. Is that a true statement?
No, to the extent that they're licensed operators. So the survey will be basically going to all the licensed operators that we have on the database, along with industry SMEs and you guys and everybody in the council and everybody else that you think that should weigh in. And then those survey results will be compiled. And so then the idea is to get as close to a peak on what's happening in the industry at that level, to then know what the criticality or the importance of those extra topics are. So
okay,
does that make sense? So you, at that point, regardless of who we contract, because we're only going to probably contract one or two people, everybody, all of you will have the opportunity, including all the licensed operators out there, will have the opportunity to weigh in on those criticalities of those tasks. And we are hoping, and the reason why Shannon was saying that we offer continuing education credits is because we want to give a little carrot for people to actually take the time to provide meaningful input, because it's not a survey that you fill out in 5 minutes. It could take 2 hours to fill out because you have to have a lot of thought into the process. So we want to make sure that we compensate them in some way for their time and their knowledge. So
thank you, Haya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jeff?
So I'm somewhat adding on to Risa's comment, but then I had a clarification. So like B licenses you like are for transfer station operators from a requirement standpoint. So that's, you know, a group that we definitely want to get captured in there. And then I was just looking for a clarification because I thought I was following and maybe I'm not. So you're kind of procedurally what you're thinking of is you're seeking volunteers for job task analyses and such, but separately you're looking for 1 or 2 subject matter experts that are going to actually contract and be at maybe a higher level. It's maybe not the right word, but is that kind of how it's working? In which case, maybe I'll
Not
just stop there.
Yeah, not exactly, Jeff, and then Shannon, please feel free to weigh in. So the way we have done it with other programs, in fact, we just finished another program. These contractors that would be paid a paid deal, they will be setting up the surveys, extracting the information on the different activities and tasks, and then helping us compile that information, blast it off to everybody, and then at that point, everybody will have an input. So the person doing the work of organizing the surveys and analyzing the results and everything like that is going to be a paid position. And the people replying to the survey and providing input, those are going to be the ones that if they have a license, they can get continuing education credits, or they can at least volunteer to provide that input. Does that clarify a little bit better? So it's more than just two people providing the input.
Right. Yeah. What I was trying to understand is, so for those that are volunteering, like, is that going to be via a request from your group, or how do we get the message out?
Yeah, it's going to come from TCEQ. It's going to be, I mean, and maybe Shannon, you can weigh in a little bit more on how that's done.
So it will come from TCEQ. What we've done in the past is we have contact information for all licensed individuals, and so we send the notice about the availability of the survey to all of the licensed individuals.
Okay.
And that's sort of the way they know that the survey is available. Then we also share that with, for example, we'll work with Chance and Dave, I'm hoping, to further share that, for example, with this group. I apologize, I don't know who has licenses here and who doesn't, but with this group, with any other professional groups that might have that knowledge that we're looking for. The more surveys that we can get, the more solid our results will be. We don't want like I've worked with the recycling rules, but I haven't worked at a facility, so I will not be filling out the survey as an example because I don't have that knowledge. But folks that do have that knowledge, we want their input so that we can get the most robust results when we start looking at what kinds of questions and that sort of thing we need.
Perfect. I do have a license, but the reason I'm mainly asking is one other thing that I kind of serve on is I'm the current president for the Texas chapter of the Solid Waste Association of North America.
Absolutely.
So trying to figure out, how this is all playing out so that, for those that when a request comes out, we can get the word out in our organization.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely. Jeff. And then if you fast forward, so then, the person has been contracted, they have conducted the survey link was blasted to everybody replied to the survey, the results get compiled and so on, and eventually some kind of a curriculum guide gets created. Then that's another point of input where when we start developing the exam, there might be then a set of volunteers that might want to volunteer. Of course, they sign a non-disclosure and confidentiality agreement and so on, that they're not going to disclose the questions of the exam. And then at that point, there could be a little work group that brainstorms distractors and questions and that kind of thing on the back end.
So to be clear, and I was listening on this, so there's really two opportunities, if I'm hearing that, for volunteers to help validate, at the beginning with the survey and then reviewing the test. Okay. See, that makes me feel better, because one of my concerns there was, reaching out to these folks, and Jeff touched on Texwana, which there are a lot of folks there that have various licenses, and that's just a group you want to reach out to. They're not looking for a part-time or paid position to help TCEQ. They already got a regular job, and with COVID, they got more than one job, a lot of these folks. But I want to make sure their input is incorporated. I feel a little better if there's like kind of two bites at the apple here, where, you know, there's input provided and then looking at that test when it's ready to go. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, that'd be kind of bad if Proctor had the exam give it to his employees. That would be bad. So they wouldn't do that. Text one is very ethical. But you know, I do feel better if there's a second process going through there, if that makes sense. Because Shannon, I know you reached out to me a month or so ago, and you helped me now with this presentation understand you're just, you know, you're in charge of making sure these go out for all the different, you know, categories, whether it's water, wastewater, solid waste, but
Right.
you've got to get these subject matter experts. So anyhow, okay, this is
Yes.
full, and I feel better if we get some of the Tech Swana folks here.
So the dots are connecting now. I kind of threw the dots out there and then went, okay.
The wife reports things a couple times to me, and then I get it. So I'm getting it now.
I got that. I totally get that. Risa?
When I raised my hand, I was going to say, be sure to coordinate with Texwana. Jeff already said that, but then I was going to add on, I'm sure you already know these organizations, but make sure that you have on your list the State of Texas for Alliance for, I'm sorry, the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling STAR.
Yes.
The US Composting Council, and they have a brand new Texas chapter, and I'm sure they'll want to get involved. And there are probably other ones if I thought about it for a second, but at least Texwana STAR and USCC.
Well,
I've got it.
And I apologize, I'm forgetting Chuck and Scott are on for the private sector. It's, and I'm sorry, what are they? Or I can't remember what they're.
NWMA.
Thank you. I was close.
Did I get that right?
NWRRAC. National Waste and Recycling Association.
Sorry about that. Almost got it.
And then the only question I have for you guys with these licenses, and again, you know, you folks that get them or oversee staff that get them, you know better. I was with Risa on this. I was a little confused, might still be a little bit. Is this strictly then for subtitle D landfills? Is it for potential type 4? Where do you get into recycling or composting, or is there a clear demarcation? Because I'm a little confused there.
So just because I'm, even after several years of being this manager, I don't have all of the licenses memorized. Our website says if you have your municipal solid waste B license, experience can be as a principal operator, foreman, supervisor, or manager of a solid waste facility. And then it says individuals managing or supervising medical waste or compost facilities requiring an MSW registration or permit must complete a TCQ recognized or approved specialized training course that is applicable to that facility.
So Dave, A is you know, really simplifying it. An A license is disposal, a B license is processing, and then if you're in some subsets of processors, you need additional specialized training in addition to the standard B training.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Risa.
Okay. So, and on this, you're going to be reaching out to folks on the advisory council, Shannon, for this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if anybody knows someone who has retired from the landfill or MSW industry who would be interested in something part-time helping us out, you know, feel free to give them my contact information. We are looking for somebody, in addition to the 2 volunteer opportunities, we are also looking for somebody who has the knowledge and experience to be able to help us actually create and update questions. And I would be happy to, I mean, I think beyond the scope of this current presentation or meeting, but I'd be happy to provide more details and kind of the specific scope of work and that sort of thing if anyone's interested.
Shannon, I got a quick question. Sorry, this is Chuck.
Sure.
There are, what, 2 authorized training companies that can give the classroom and testing for the licenses? TETC was one, and I can't remember the name of the other, but
Owens Consulting.
Owens Consulting. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. And I think SWANA has a MOLO authorization too.
Okay. Are they in the loop? My question is, are they in the loop on this? They are the ones that are out there every single week with operators in the class, given the training that they're ordered to train, and I feel certain they have some pretty strong opinions.
I guarantee that they have pretty strong opinions.
Okay, so they're in the loop.
We have not yet reached out to them. Again, this is where this has been something that we've been working on to move forward with, and other projects get put in front of us, and so we started with you guys, and now we will reach out to the associations and training providers and let them know kind of, well, here's what's going on.
Okay. Well, and I don't want to create a conflict. I don't know that there would be, but the owner of Owens Consulting has a family member who recently retired after 25 years in the solid waste business, for what it's worth.
Okay. That's an option. So we'll definitely reach out to them. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah. Any other questions on this, folks? Okay. Well, yeah, just in closing, this is a great place where the subject matter experts either on this call or your associates have a great opportunity to make sure that the training documents are relevant and applicable. So this is a great opportunity. I appreciate TCEQ asking for some of this this input.
Well, I look forward to working with y'all, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, same here. If you have
Y'all
any
have a great
questions,
day.
let us know.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we are, well, we're doing pretty good. We're only 3 minutes behind our scheduled time, so we are right on track. We've got in this final section the approval of the minutes. I know we're going to have Steve Shannon share some information here in just a minute. So, Diane, let me ask you: do you want me to ask for public comments here, or should we go through the meeting highlights and action items and then save Steve for the last thing here?
That is entirely up to you.
Okay, well, I'm just going to roll with it then. What I'd like you to do, everybody should have a copy of the meeting minutes from October, and we do need approval of those. I had just one question, and maybe I am getting old and forgot this, but for the life of me, I cannot remember. I have in the meeting minutes from October 14th that we had a discussion on this alternative language rules and stakeholder input for those, and I can't remember we did that. We did that in that meeting. Does anybody else remember that?
Yes, sir. Megan was on the agenda that brought that to our attention.
I'm just getting old. Sorry, I was reading this and I couldn't remember it. I remembered everything else. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Who, Richard, is that you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a
second? Richard McHale will second.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Action items here. You have a summary of the action items and responsibilities that you've got off of this meeting.
Do we need to vote?
Oh, you on it. All right, everybody in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
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 Right.
Thank you.
No? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, Jeff. Okay. Action items. Diane, do you have a list you want to go through there?
I didn't pick up any. Let's see.
What I had on my list here is that there would be some sharing of information from Garrett as far as some of the different fees and schedules.
Okay.
I've got that down.
That I thought we had.
I think it was
everything provided in that MSW newsletter, but then there was a link that was provided in the chat also.
Yep.
So,
Chance.
no, is that
No, that's
taken
okay.
care of? Is that taken care of, or is there something additional we need to do?
That link to the IHW fee information is right there in the chat that Megan provided.
Okay.
And then Charlie provided the stuff about Sunset right there as well.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. No.
Hey, one of the perks of virtual meeting, you can just multitask, man.
That's if you
Action
have the
items are
skill
done.
set. That's why we have people that have skill sets. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chance, from the AARP crowd here, thank you for letting me know there was a chat, okay?
Oh, well,
it's
I'm
except I
Generation
do things
X. I'm
every
not
day.
millennial, so we got millennials in this.
And then let's talk about on the MSW landfill operator license exams. Really, what we're just going to be waiting for is Shannon will be providing out, and it's going to be a large distribution, but the request for folks for assistance on the survey and those things. So that's just where she. Other than that,
Right.
did I miss anything else? Okay. I know this council will tell me if I missed something. So, okay. If there isn't anything else there, then we've got the last item is public comments, closing remarks. And as far as that, Diane, I know we got some information from Steve Shannon, and we wanted to have that presented. So, Steve, you're up.
All right. Can everyone see me all right?
Yep.
So, okay. Good morning, everybody. Steve Shannon, relatively new member of the MSWRRAC. I'm this morning speaking in reference to the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling. Our organization has submitted 5 documents to the MSWRRAC. I'd like to thank the MSWRRAC for accepting these documents, and Diane for your help and getting these to everyone. Both of these documents, or all of these documents, were developed by the STAR Business Council and unanimously approved by the STAR Board for consideration of other parties. We, in doing this, we are responding to windows of opportunity that have presented themselves to us subsequent to the publishment of the Recycling Market Development Plan. I'd like to say that we are submitting these documents to the MSWRRAC for out of respect for this organization and this body, for your consideration, your review, your comment, your adoption, your support, if that's possible, or your condemnation of the documents. What has happened since the Recycling Market Development Plan was produced in September is that we have an opportunity to submit an interim charge. We have submitted that to the governor, the speaker, the lieutenant governor and to many committee chairs. We haven't heard anything yet. In fact, the Senate has not even asked for the interim request for interim charges yet. We attached that document with this today because we reference that document in the other effort, which is our testimony or pending testimony to the Sunset Advisory Commission in regard to TCEQ. This is a bit of a late hour, we know, but the Business Council has spent weeks and weeks developing these documents. They're verbose to some extent, but the topic is involved and therefore it is verbose. There's been much stakeholder input into the development of these documents and these efforts. I would like to say, and Rich and I feel a little bit uncomfortable that here we're the new guys in the organization. We're certainly not trying to take any advantage of any thing of our seat on this body at all, but submit this for everyone's edification. It's interesting that Rich Abramowitz is the business chair. I'm the vice chair. Risa Weinberger is a member of the Business Council. There have been other people that have been involved in this push over the last 12 years, including Richard McHale with his efforts in SWANA, Cheryl Murgo, Mr. Dave Yankee was vice chair of STAR at one point. And what these documents are really, I hope that we can use these two administrative processes, the Sunset Advisory Commission process and the interim charge process, to move this forward. I'd like to mention that this is at this point has been a 12-year process to try to basically illustrate the economic value and the economic opportunities related to recycling in Texas. And that started 12 years ago with the Texas Recycling Data Initiative, which was STAR and SWANA and several other stakeholders. Came up with $80,000 to conduct that study. Based upon the results of that study, the legislature in 2017 enabled $250,000 to conduct these study on the economic impacts of recycling. The results of that enabled the 86 legislature to pass Senate Bill 649 in regard to the Recycling Market Development Plan, which is $500,000. So we've already got, we're pushing more than $250,000 here in these efforts of public money. So, as you know, the Recycling Market Development Plan, which you have studied, we now have better data than we ever had in regard to the recycling industry in this state. And we would like to see that data and those recommendations used to their advantage. But just real quickly, the Market Development Plan has revealed that we're recycling more than 13 million tons of MSW, an additional 7 million tons a year from industrial sources, that we have a 27.5% recycling rate in the state. Now, this does not include scrap metal. The scrap metal industry was really not part of the Market Development Plan per se. That recycling is having at least a $7.8 billion positive impact on Texas's economy annually, that the recycling industry is paying more than $220 million in state and local taxes annually. There are more than 31,000 Texans that are employed full-time in the recycling industry in Texas, which astonishingly is almost identical to the number of people employed in the petroleum refining industry. So we are faced, however, with a dilemma. We have a wonderful plan based upon a 12-year effort to gain data and define the industry, but we are in a leadership void. There is no state agency that is relegated or that has the responsibility to examine the recycling market development plan, consider its recommendations, or act upon them. So we are hopeful that that leadership void can be filled. It's interesting to us when we look at the market development plan, how much of the recommendations of it have been in state code for 32 years. The same market development efforts that were identified and called for 3 decades ago are still needed today. But the difference is that we have better data to act upon. The market development plan is 318 pages of information, very valid. Extrapolation was kept to a minimum. It was based upon information derived from stakeholders across the spectrum, particularly focusing on post-collection, processors, end users, manufacturers. So it's valid, but there's nobody to examine it at this point. We hope that both of these documents are supportive of TCEQ. We think that TCEQ does a great job when they are funded and giving the ability to do these things. We specifically in these documents are calling upon TCEQ to take a lead role for the Sunset Advisory Committee to exercise their authorities to the extent that they can to move this forward. We're asking for other state agencies to act. We specifically are hoping that either by interim charge or by Sunset SAC recommendation that the TCEQ will conduct a methodical examination of the recycling market development plan. It's only going to be used to the extent that people understand it and are enabled to act upon it. And STAR intends to conduct such a methodical plan sometime this in Q2 or 3 of this year. But we encourage TCEQ to conduct a stakeholder examination of the market development plan such that these recommendations, or at least some of them, can be adopted and we can move forward to growing the recycling industry in Texas. We do not know to what extent, if any, this body can have any influence over this. But we ask that to the extent that you can, that you consider exercising your influence as either a body or individually. And that is pretty much it. Rich or I are here, and Risa, to answer any questions you might have in regard to this. And we appreciate very much the opportunity to present these documents to this body.
All right, thanks, Steve. Folks, I apologize. Normally this is public comment. He's technically on the member team in late, so we were saving this towards the end. So this does, I'll open it up for discussion or comments on this from the members.
I must not have done a very good job if I can't get a comment out of that.
Now, Steve, I think you did a good job. I think the question I have here is, you're right, this crosses so many different areas or state agencies, or you're right, TCEQ, it comes down to who's responsible for implementation, funding, and how we approach that. Because I don't think anybody here would disagree with the opportunities coming out of that study to show what we can do. The question I have is, yeah, who specifically, takes the lead with this and I'll just put that out there right now. And I think, Steve, you said TCEQ is charged with that, if I heard you right.
Well, let me say that our testimony and the interim charge documents were based, we did an awful lot of research reading state codes. TCEQ, the codes already exist that give TCEQ much authority and opportunity to pursue various things that are recommended in the recycling market development plan. But in order to do those things, takes staff, it takes time, it takes effort, dedication, and of course the root of that is funding. And while those authorities are already in state code in most cases, the funding has always lagged. And gosh, you know, our feeling is if a $7.8 billion impact to the state's economy isn't worthy of financing growth in that industry, then we don't know what does. So I would like to say that one of the documents that we have provided with you is an appendix to our testimony that we intend to submit to the SAC. Which is several pages of existing state code that speaks to these matters. For example, the development of a state recycling market development organization, which at one time existed for a couple of years. But that kind of thing is already there. And, you know, nobody is blaming TCEQ or anything. Let me say that about this. We know it's a matter of the state budget board and where the money comes from. But gosh, if we can't move forward on this issue now, after all of this examination and effort by not just STAR, but gosh, hundreds of stakeholders across the state, then I don't know what we should do. So we're asking for your advice. We intend to submit this. I think the deadline is prior to February 4th. So we intend to submit this as soon as possible. If anyone in this body has any comments that they would submit to us, please reach out to Rich or I and let us know. If this body would like to take some action, if it can, then we request that happen when it can happen. But the sooner that we can know that and take advantage of that, we would appreciate it.
Hey, Steve, it's Chuck. Let's talk about the mechanics of that just a little bit. First off, I mean, who can't support what you're trying to do? It's totally on the right side. But as far as this group goes, our charge is to provide advice to the TCEQ. You know, we don't have any true actionable authority. We clearly have no funding, and we have no direct contact back to the legislature, which is where this really needs to go. Our charges. So in the extent of our reason for being, what advice would you care for us to give to the TCEQ?
To take the leadership role that they are authorized by current state code.
Okay.
Take the leadership role.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's succinct. Dave, you've been on the board for a long time, the committee. You know, normally we do this by resolution that's submitted to the commissioners, and we're going to be facing a fairly uphill time battle. We meet quarterly. And so in order, the earliest we could get a recommendation to the commissioners would be at our next quarterly meeting, correct?
Well, and that's where I was thinking also, Chuck. We have crafted resolutions before and submitted them. Like you just said, I've crafted a couple of them before. I would recommend, you know, or my idea would be, yes, we craft a resolution supporting this, the implementation from a time standpoint, and because I've already messed up once here today, I'll ask Diane and Chance. I know we have done some things virtually within our firm where we have board members that approve things electronically. I don't know if we can get a resolution crafted. We craft something here and get electronic submittals or approvals from our council members. Can we do that?
I thought we had done that in the past, but I may be wrong.
I think we did. I think the last one that I can't recall, but I remember getting emails from everyone. I remember it hasn't been that long ago. So we did similar, y'all crafted something together. I think Holly did, y'all crafted it together, and then we went through and I gathered all the emails.
Okay. What I would propose, I'm going to make a motion that we, as the advisory council, craft a resolution supporting that TCEQ take a lead in this activity, endorsing that. I would recommend, and this is where as president, I'm going to put some people on the spot. I would recommend that Risa and Scott work with Steve and Richard on the crafting of that and send it over to us. That's my motion. Is there a second for that?
Hey, before taking a second, I would offer a friendly amendment to include Richard on that as well, or Richard Abramowitz. You may have said, you said Richard, I was thinking McHale, but wanted to make sure you had Abramowitz included in that. So that may be my mistake, Dave, depending on which Richard.
I meant one with, we're on the same page, Abramowitz.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
And that's the way I was thinking too, so I'm okay with that.
So that's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mrs. Risa.
Great. Okay. Time, we've done that. Let's talk about timing. What is our timing on?
Dave, do we need to vote again? All right. We'll get you a copy of the Robert's Rules of Order.
I would say only to the extent that Dave wants to include timing in the motion, then no, we wait until he puts that or wants to include that in the motion.
Thank you, Richard. That's what I was waiting on.
I gave you a way out, David.
Thank you. I just need a crack. What is our timing on this? And it's really on you four, so I'm going to put it back to you. And Steve, you know what the timing is. So what's our timing here? Because we got to turn it around quickly then.
Well, that we have to submit this to them before February the 4th, which is, what do we got? Less than 3 weeks.
So let me throw this out. Can you guys get something crafted the week of the 17th and get it over to Diane by Friday the 21st? She turns it around in the first 2-3 days, the 24th through the 26th of January, and we all, vote your conscience. There you go. And then we have it completed and we can submit it by the 27th of January.
I'll just throw out that I'm going to be at the U.S. Compost Council conference, just absolutely tied up from the 24th to the 27th, but to the extent that, I can participate around that, I'm more than happy to.
Oh, you four are going to craft it the week of the 17th, and get it out by the 21st to Diane.
I have a question. Does it have to be tied to the sunset deadline? I mean, it's a recommendation to, I'm just asking.
I don't know. I think that would be useful. It strikes me as that it would be useful, but I don't know that it necessarily needs to be at that. However, if it's necessary that the document get to them after that, then so be it. But I'm not so sure that perhaps MSWRRAC isn't bound by the same submittal deadlines that any entity would be.
Oh, I see. So
February 4th.
okay. So we're trying to get a resolution to because the resolution goes up to our ED. So, but you're also wanting that resolution to be on record for the approved resolution approved for sunset? Am I missing something, Chance?
I don't think it needs to go to the ED for resolution. I think what they're trying to do is get the council's name on this submittal prior to being submitted to the sunset committee. Is that correct? Is that what we're trying to do? We're trying to put the council's name on this submittal.
Well,
so really, it's just y'all. If y'all want to put y'all's name on this, y'all need to vote saying, yeah, we want to put our name on this, and then that documented on that packet, and then it goes to the sunset.
So really,
I don't know that it would necessarily need to put your all's name on the document, but the resolution could be submitted as a supportive document.
Yeah, to be clear, we're not putting our name on this document. We're issuing a resolution in support of it. Charlie, you have something you want to say.
I was trying to figure out, yeah, as Chance was saying, if you're wanting to submit something to sunset, my recommendation is as a committee, submit it directly to sunset. I don't see us, the agency, if the agency gets something from this committee, going and directing it to sunset. Our recommendations, our conversation with sunset of adding stuff is pretty much done. We are answering their questions at this point. So that's reach out directly to sunset at this point and raise that issue through the comments with them.
So let me just ask here, and then we can, because I know everybody's got schedules. If we're going to make a resolution, typically this would go up to your ED. Is that correct? That's my understanding.
Right.
Is a little different. Let me just ask you, can we issue a resolution that goes to the Sunset Advisory Committee? Because can we do that?
I don't see the purpose in that, because your resolutions is to direct, you're giving us advice and direction to do something, and then we will respond back to you about that. If you're wanting us to pass something through to give it to the Sunset Committee, that would be coming from us and not from you. So it would just, my thought is y'all are trying to get the council's name on this information to then be able to give it to the Sunset Reviews, showing that you have affirmed this information.
It's just an endorsement, right? Steve, you're looking for an endorsement.
Yeah, but is that, I'm kind of going back to what Chuck was originally talking about. Is that completely outside the bounds of our charge?
That's what we're trying to
and
figure
it
out.
appears to be like if our directions are only to, not directives or directions, but if these are only to the ED / the commissioners, then I don't know enough about, so we're looking for guidance. I think we may be outside our guardrails.
Yeah, let me ask a question. If we craft a resolution in support of this, we provide it to Diane, Chance, and it goes up to the ED. That is a public document. Can't Steve then share that as part of the filing by February 4th saying, MSWRRAC's done this? And that way we're still staying in our guardrails. He's just sharing anecdotal information.
The continuation of that is we are going to respond back to you in some form or fashion. So we would get ahead of whatever y'all are trying to request a committee of.
So Chance, if we do this, provided to you, then you're going to respond. Does it end up going to the Sunset Advisory Committee via you?
No. We would not pass that on to the committee. The committee is independent from us. They request from us information from us. We wouldn't be a pass through for the public on what is being submitted.
So, and then I'm going to try to wrap this up, and hopefully, if we pass a resolution here, you'll respond back to us, but it'll be public information that we have passed this. We've made a resolution and passed it up to you folks and to the ED, correct?
You would still need to independently submit that to the committee, to the Sunset Committee.
And here's what we can do. I would recommend we submit this resolution to the ED. Once that's been done, Steve can anecdotally or what have you. You're right, to Jeff's point, I don't want to go outside our authority. I mean, we do what we do and we abide by that, but it would be public information. If we have passed a resolution, Steve can say to them, you know, we have, MSWRRAC's done that. Members, am I off track here on that thought process and doing that? Chuck, what do you think?
Well, and I know I started this whole crazy discussion by talking about what our charter was, but that being said, if we do something that's not strictly in abidance with our charter, the worst that can happen is it just gets ignored, right? And maybe you get a bad phone call from someone saying, "What are you doing?" So I think we can do any number of ways. We could do a resolution that would just really go to the ED and Park, but Steve would have knowledge of and copy of that resolution, and he could use it as he sees fit, right?
That's my thought. Let's abide. So, and then I'll make I'm going to redo the motion.
Can I add something, Dave?
Yes.
While in theory, I'm 100% in support of this, this actually makes me uncomfortable. I find it outside of our charge, and then to have this sort of the guidance how Steve could use it, it just makes me uncomfortable. I'm just going to say that.
Well, go ahead, Risa. You're going to say something.
I think I'm going to say something. Would it be possible, this is way out of the box, would it be possible for those of us who are so inclined as individuals to co-sign a letter of endorsement to give to Steve as individuals? That's just a letter of endorsement, and if we are so inclined, as individuals to sign, for example, Risa Weinberger, MSWRRAC member. Well, that's way out of the box. Is that even useful?
That would be, and we invite that. I would like, and certainly we are not wanting the MSWRRAC to step outside of out of bounds in any way. I think we're kind of caught in a bit of a kind of an administrative vacuum glitch here. I like Dave's suggestion that we craft a resolution for everyone's consideration. If it is adopted by a majority of the MSWRRAC, then it is submitted to the ED, and then it kind of, at that point, it may be just enter a cul-de-sac or a dead end. We don't know, but nonetheless, the fact that this body did or did not endorse let's say it does endorse these documents and the intent of the documents, then I think that that would be helpful to the Sunset Advisory Committee and kind of provide an ad hoc opportunity for this body to express itself and not be constrained by, you know, some sort of administrative capability that is absent just by virtue of the fact that's the way it is.
So here's what I would propose then, because Cheryl's point is valid. I've read through the documents, but we're not if we move forward and the four of you work on crafting this, it is critical that you're right. We are not wholeheartedly 100% endorsing everything, because, I mean, we've got to look at, I mean, you used the word, Steve, intent. We support the intent of how this is, you know, moves forward. This should move forward. We support the intent of what is being recommended here. You know, we're not, you know, for instance, specifically saying, yes, there should be 2 FTEs on TCEQ staff, and honestly, I don't disagree with that, but, you know, we're not laying out 100% agreement with everything laid out there, because we're just going to focus on big picture. Guys, we need to do something here, but we're not getting down to every specific task, strategy, deliverable, if that makes sense, Steve.
Yes, yes, it does to me.
So I'm going to go back to this and try again and picking up that motion. I would make a motion that Steve, Richard Abramowitz, Risa, and Scott Pasternak work on crafting a resolution that from MSWRRAC that we support the intent of what's being put forth to encourage, you know, further, you know, the market development for recycling and the materials associated thereof. And I'm going to make a motion on that. Can I get a second?
All right, I'll second that one.
Okay. I would like to have a vote on this motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Those opposed?
That was not in opposition. That was just raising my hand, Dave.
Good. All right, so the motion passes. And then from a logistics standpoint, you four are going to get a resolution crafted. I would just say, let's get it on a timeline. Let's get it done. So we're going to craft a resolution Friday the 21st and get it back to Diane. And then Diane, you're going to distribute it to the advisory council members the first part of the week and get the endorsements by Wednesday the 27th. So then it can be submitted up to your ED still in January. And then quite frankly, from there, Steve can use that as desired.
I'd like to say, yeah, I really appreciate that, and let me say that it's not Steve using it; it's Star and all of its stakeholders. Now, I probably will be heavily in the middle of that, but it's fortunately we have the benefit of in Star of having a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me and help keep me out of the ditch. So we'll do our best to craft a good document, and I appreciate it very, very much. Our organization appreciates it.
It's a good point. It's Star, and to the extent other folks want to put a separate letter together, you know, we can leave that to individuals to get more involved or speak to it, the opportunities presented. So I'm good with that. All right, so we got a game plan on that. Scott, you have a quick question?
Yeah, I just got curious based on what we were talking about in terms of a guardrail discussion, and I, you know, given that we're over time today, maybe this could just come in the form of a request at our next meeting, just to maybe revisit what our duties are as a council, and if everybody can see this, there definitely are a number of our duties that are specific to the executive director or the commission. But this very first one does say that we can review and evaluate the effect of state policies and programs on municipal solid waste management. So I wonder if that one potentially gives us greater latitude. So I bring it up, not specific to this topic, because I want to make sure that we consider this in a more methodical way. But if we could just maybe request that one at our next council meeting, if we could just get an update on this policy or what our directives are from TCEQ, just so that everybody is on the same page.
Scott, I think that's a great idea. And Diane, if you would start a list for next quarter's meeting in April, I think a refresher of what our duties, authorities are, as well as the process for how we submit them. We have a lot of new members, and those of us that have been on a number of years, this would be a good refresher. I think that's an excellent idea. Thank you. I know we've gone over. Are there any other public comments?
David, I've got one more on this, and I sent separately to you and to Diane. I found the email trail we did on the last resolution in July 28th, 2020.
Yes.
And in that particular one, Holly Holder sent out the resolution to the commission, to the members, and not Diane. And I don't know that this process is written in stone. We made that process up as we went along because of COVID.
Yeah.
All right. And but for what it's worth, that's the one and only precedent we have for a email form resolution. And I thought you may want to just take a look at it. Okay.
I have all the copies of all the
That's correct, and
emails.
Diane was copied on that resolution, so she monitored everyone's email votes.
Right.
Yeah,
She
but
was just
I
monitoring.
think,
She didn't minister it.
Exactly, Chance. That's my point. I think, David, you need to take the lead on pushing it through, and Diane can just check the pulse.
And Diane, what was easiest? Was it replying to the main message, or was it replying in the email thread?
I'm trying to see. I've got all of the.
Because we did keep copies of, submitted copies of everybody's email to document the approval, since we didn't have it on paper. I think it was easier if everybody replied to the original message that said, instead of replying in the email chain, reply all, you can still reply all, but directly to the first email that goes out that says, please vote. That way we don't have to go sort through chains of emails to figure out who voted what.
Yes, because I did get, so I have copies with each individual of all the emails, but I have for each individual council member, I kept an email.
I'll coordinate with you, Diane. I will take the lead, Chuck. Thank you on that. Anything else on logistics for that? Okay. Any other public comments? Okay. Closing remarks, and folks, appreciate this. This is probably the very important thing here, item on the market development. So thank you for everyone's time going long. We'll get this put together. Diane, I'll coordinate with you, and I'll request a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second? I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's good. That's very good practice, Mr. Yonke.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Garrett, do you want to go ahead and stop recording?